Everyone keeps repeating the same number for Dwayne Johnson's fortune, and it's wrong. The usual estimate leaves out what he actually owns. Somewhere between tequila, stocks, football, and film, the real number gets much bigger. Stay with me to see how one bottle from Jalisco changed everything. Here's the thing about Dwayne Johnson's net worth that most lists get wrong. They treat him like an actor who does some side deals. That's backwards. Only about a quarter of his fortune comes from the films he's starred in. The remaining 75% comes from Teremana tequila sales and the success of his other business ventures. Let's sit with that for a second. The guy who got paid tens of millions per movie, whose face is on posters worldwide. Most of his money isn't even from that. It's from a bottle of agave spirit he launched in 2020. Teremana didn't creep into the market. Johnson Spirit's brand was on pace for a record-setting first year of sales, preparing to sell 300,000 9-liter cases and shipped nearly 400,000 cases in its first year. For context on how absurd that is, George Clooney, Rondé Gerber, and Mike Meldman sold their Casamigos tequila brand to Diageo at 175,000 cases a year for reportedly close to $1 billion. Johnson's brand launched doing double that volume. He wasn't shy about it either. He called it the biggest launch in the history of the spirits business, of any spirit ever, and it kept climbing. By 2023, Teremana had sold over 1 million cases, beating Casamigos by 830,000 cases, and hit a $3.5 billion valuation without Johnson selling a single stake. Not one share sold. He just kept the whole thing running and growing. Now, here's where the real math kicks in. Analysts use the Casamigos sale as the industry comparison point. $1 billion for a brand doing 170,000 cases. When Diageo acquired Casamigos for $1 billion, it was on pace to sell 170,000 cases in 2017, and Teremana was already on pace to sell 600,000 cases annually at a similar stage, meaning by that same math, Teremana could be worth far more. One breakdown ran the numbers, assuming Johnson kept a 30% stake after all his partners took their cut, and concluded his pre-tax equity stake in Teremana would be worth more than the total amounts earned by Sammy Hagar, Conor McGregor, and George Clooney from their alcohol brands combined. Significantly more than everything Johnson has ever earned from film salaries and endorsements put together. That's not a rounding error. That's an entire career's worth of blockbuster paychecks, dwarfed by a bottle of tequila he didn't even sell yet. So who else is in this deal? Because Johnson didn't build Teremana alone, and understanding the ownership structure matters if you're trying to figure out what he's actually worth. Co-founded by Johnson along liquor industry veterans Jenna Fagnan and Ken Austin, as well as bodybuilder Danny Garcia, the company first launched in March 2020 with an initial rollout in the United States, followed by sales in Canada and Mexico. Garcia, his former wife and longtime business partner, has been central to nearly everything Johnson has built financially since the 2000s, and we'll get into just how deep that partnership runs a little later. The brand didn't stay a scrappy startup for long either. Teremana landed a major global expansion deal with German liquor giant Mast Jägermeister, which serves as the exclusive distribution partner for the brand and brings in additional global sales, marketing, and logistics expertise, as well as organizational structure to support growth. Terms weren't disclosed, but the timing tells you something. Jägermeister doesn't sign global distribution deals with brands that are treading water. Nobody actually knows the exact percentage Johnson owns. His ownership stake is undisclosed, but estimated at 20 to 30% of the business. Even with the low end of that range, on a company valued between $2 and $3.5 billion, you're talking about a personal stake worth hundreds of millions of dollars that most net worth trackers simply don't fold into their headline number. One outlet ran the calculation directly and put Johnson's share of the company at potentially $1.05 billion, $1 billion, from agave, sitting quietly next to a headline number that still says 800 million total. And Johnson has been explicit that he's not cashing out the way Clooney, McGregor, or Ryan Reynolds did with their own liquor brands. Unlike Clooney, who sold Casamigos to Diageo for $1 billion, McGregor, who sold Proper No. 12's majority stake for $600 million, and Reynolds, who sold Aviation Gin to Diageo for $610 million, Johnson has explicitly stated he is not selling Teremana, with his stated goal being to build it into the first truly international tequila brand and create a legacy for future generations of his family. He said as much directly in an interview, describing the tequila brand as a long game rather than a payday. He explained it as, "This is a legacy play. Ideally, I'd like to get it to the point where the brand can live on its own without me." That decision to hold instead of sell is exactly why nobody can pin an accurate number on him. A sale would create a headline number overnight. Holding means the value sits there, compounding, invisible to anyone just glancing at a celebrity net worth page. And tequila isn't even the only place he did this. Because right around the same time Teremana was launching, Johnson was also building a second beverage company from scratch, one built for an entirely different market, and one that adds its own separate stack of money nobody's counting either. Let's talk about the businesses that don't get the tequila level attention but are quietly adding up all the same. Start with Zoa Energy. In 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, Johnson co-founded a zero-sugar energy drink brand. Next, he tackled energy drinks. In 2021, Johnson co-founded Zoa, a zero-sugar beverage packed with vitamin C, B vitamins, and natural caffeine. He didn't just lend his face to it, he took the title of Chief Energy Officer and co-founded the drink while expressing his ambition to deliver the best quality energy drink formulations to the marketplace. By its second year, the brand wasn't a novelty. It was generating real revenue. The company earned a whopping $100 million in 2022, according to Food Business News. And it's kept expanding since, landing in over 26,000 retailers. That's $100 million a year from a drink that's less than 5 years old, sitting in a category, the energy drink market, that analysts estimate is worth $50 billion. Now stack Project Rock on top of that. This is his apparel and footwear partnership with Under Armour, and it's been running for years as one of the steadier lines in his portfolio. His successful Under Armour line Project Rock sells clothing, shoes, and headphones, and it's described elsewhere as a highly successful apparel and footwear line that Johnson helped shape hands-on. He's been noted for enhancing Under Armour's product portfolio with a scientific and results-driven approach to athletic shoes and apparel. Then there's the endorsement side of things, which people underrate because it sounds boring compared to owning a tequila company. Johnson has long-term equity-heavy partnerships with brands like Ford, Apple, and Voss Water, collectively adding millions to his annual income. These aren't simple one-off commercial checks. They're structured as actual ownership stakes and profit shares, which is a very different kind of money than a paycheck. It's money that keeps paying him whether or not he shows up to set that year. And then there's the part of his empire that's arguably the most overlooked of all, $7 Productions. Named for the amount of money he had in his pocket after being cut from professional football, it's grown into a real studio. A critical amplifier of Johnson's entertainment income is $7 Productions, the media company he co-founded with his ex-wife and business partner Danny Garcia in 2012. The company's name references the low point in Johnson's life when he had just $7 to his name after being cut from the Canadian Football League. $7 isn't just a vanity credit that appears before his movies start. The company doesn't just collect a producer's fee. It's central to Johnson's creative and financial control, co-producing nearly all of his film and television projects, generating its own intellectual property for projects that don't even feature him on screen, managing his massive social media presence, and commanding an additional $4 million fee just to promote his own movies on his own platforms. Read that last part again. He gets paid separately, on top of his acting fee, just to post about his own film on his own Instagram. That's not a Hollywood salary line, that's an owner charging a media buy rate to his own studio. and the studio's output backs up the size of that operation. By 2024, $7 had helped generate eye-watering $4.6 billion in global ticket sales. One separate estimate placed the company's own net worth at $500 million as of 2023, with its slate of films having grossed $3.3 billion at the box office worldwide. Different sources land on slightly different totals, but they all agree on one thing. This isn't a side project. It's a studio with real equity value sitting entirely outside whatever number gets attached to Dwayne Johnson, actor. And the studio just leveled up again. In mid-2024, Variety confirmed that Johnson's company inked a first-look deal with Disney, meaning front-of-the-line access to pitch and produce films across theaters and streaming with the Disney machine behind them. So now picture the stack. Tequila worth potentially over $1 billion in personal equity, an energy drink doing $100 million a year, an apparel line with a decade of equity-based deals, a production studio worth $500 million on conservative estimates, backed by a first-look deal with the biggest studio on the planet. None of that is his acting paycheck. None of that is what people mean when they say $800 million. But even that list isn't finished, because around the same time, all of this was compounding. Johnson made a move that put him on the board of one of the largest publicly traded sports and entertainment companies in the world. And that single decision may have quietly added more to his real wealth than anything else on this list. Rewind to a wrestling ring for a second, because this is where the real numbers start. Johnson began in the business making almost nothing. In his first fights, he received a mere $40 per night. As his profile grew, so did the paycheck, and eventually he signed a contract with WWE for $150,000 a year. By the time he left the ring full-time to focus on film, he'd already built a fortune off wrestling. But that relationship with the company never actually ended. It just changed shape. Fast forward to a boardroom in January 2024. It was revealed that The Rock was appointed to the board of TKO Group Holdings. The company formed after parent organization Endeavor merged the UFC and WWE. This wasn't a ceremonial seat. According to an SEC filing at the time, with his appointment, Johnson was given $30 million worth of TKO stock, plus the trademark rights to his name, The Rock, which had been owned by the WWE since 2000. Read that twice. For over 2 decades, the company owned his own nickname. That changed with this deal. He got it back, plus $30 million in stock. Plus, he's still collecting. The same filing revealed that in the previous year, Johnson had earned $491,000 in royalty payments from the WWE connected to revenue generated by licensing his name and likeness. And he continues to earn royalties, even as a board member. That's not a one-time bump either. The stock kept coming. In January 2025, he acquired an additional 96,557 TKO shares worth $41 million, bringing his total ownership to nearly 290,000 shares. Add it up, and you've got over $70 million in stock granted across 2 years in a publicly traded company, sitting on top of everything else. And separately from the board deal, his part-time in-ring relationship with WWE has apparently been worth a jaw-dropping amount on its own. According to reporting from Wrestling Insider Dave Meltzer, cited on Wrestling Observer Radio, Johnson's deal with WWE is worth a massive $80 million paycheck. And that check reportedly didn't come from his recent film work, but rather from WWE, where he's signed to perform on a part-time basis. Meltzer described it as roughly $80 million over. This will be the end of the second year of that deal. $80 million for a part-time wrestling arrangement, on top of $30 million in stock, on top of continuing royalty checks. That's a single relationship with one company that by itself rivals what most A-list actors make from an entire film career. Now stack the sports ownership piece on top of that, because Johnson didn't stop at WWE stock. In 2020, alongside Garcia, he bought a football league out of bankruptcy. In 2020, he joined an investor group, again including Danny Garcia, to purchase the XFL Football League out of bankruptcy for $15 million, now rebranded as the United Football League, representing a long-term play in the sports landscape. $15 million for an entire professional football league. That's less than some single movie paychecks he's collected. And while the early seasons weren't cheap to run, the company faced a $60 million loss in its first season in 2023, though the league was projecting revenue of $100 million in 2024. The ownership structure itself has already appreciated dramatically on paper. One report from early 2026 described Johnson as co-owner of a firm valuing the league at $7 billion, with Johnson pulling equity from football's revival, blending his sports roots with business savvy. Even if you're conservative about that $7 billion figure and treat it as an aspirational valuation rather than a locked-in one, the trajectory matters. He bought a bankrupt league for $15 million and turned it into a stakeholder position in a business, now valued in the billions, merged with the USFL, and Johnson, Garcia, and Redbird Capital now control 50% of the UFL under XFL Properties LLC. And he didn't stop at football. Johnson's sports portfolio quietly spread even further. In March 2023, he purchased a minority stake in the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces, and in August 2023, he became a minority owner of Birmingham City FC in England, partnering with Knighthead Capital Management. So by the middle of this decade, Johnson wasn't just an actor with a wrestling past. He was a board member of a publicly traded sports conglomerate, a football league owner, a WNBA stakeholder, and a soccer club investor, all running at the same time as the tequila company, the energy drink, and the production studio. None of these are hobby investments. They're equity positions that compound in value independent of whether his next movie makes money at the box office. Which raises an obvious question. With all that machinery running, what's he actually being paid for the movies themselves? Because that number on its own is still staggering, and it's the piece most people already think they understand, which makes it the perfect place to show just how much even the known part of his fortune has been undercounted. Here's the part of the story people think they have memorized. Dwayne Johnson, movie star, paid enormous sums per film. Even this piece of the puzzle is bigger than most headlines suggest. Start with the historical numbers. He earned $43 million in 2013. He earned $65 million in 2015. Between June 2017 and June 2018, Dwayne Johnson earned $125 million, making him by far the highest-paid actor on the planet. $125 million in a single year from acting alone. That kind of number didn't happen by accident, and it didn't stay static. It kept climbing as his leverage in the industry grew. For 2021's Red Notice, he reportedly made $30 million for Black Adam, the DC film his own production company produced. He pulled in an estimated $22.5 million, even though the film underperformed at the box office relative to expectations. But the number that actually broke records came more recently. Reports confirmed a staggering $50 million payday for Red One, the Amazon MGM Christmas action flick that marked the highest single film salary ever for an actor, topping previous marks set by stars like Robert Downey Jr. and Will Smith. And that $50 million wasn't just a flat check. It reflected the model he's used for years. That number comes from upfront pay plus back-end points, a model Johnson mastered years ago. Back-end points matter here more than people realize. Most actors get a salary and walk away. Johnson negotiates for a cut of the actual profits, which means when a film performs, he keeps earning on it long after it leaves theaters. He commands even more than $20 million per movie, the top tier of salaries for an actor. And he's also a producer on most of his projects, often earning over $20 million points on the back end, earning him a piece of his project's profits. That structure explains why his older films keep contributing to his fortune years after release. Older paydays like $23.5 million for Jumanji, The Next Level, and $22 million for Jungle Cruise show consistent high seven figures per project, often boosted by profit shares, Now put the studio credit back into this picture, because it changes what these paychecks actually represent. When Johnson takes $50 million for Red One, he's not just an actor collecting a salary from someone else's production. $7, his own company, often has a producing credit attached, meaning the fee, the back-end points, and the studio's own equity value are all flowing through a machine he co-owns. It's not one payday. It's a payday that feeds 3 separate revenue streams simultaneously. And the annual number, even without a single blockbuster fee attached, has been consistently enormous for over a decade. It's estimated the action star earns around $100 million annually from various income sources, not just from acting, but also from producing, endorsement deals, and various business ventures. More recent reporting pushes that even higher. Multiple sources peg his 2025 to 2026 haul north of $100 million annually, with business assets appreciating fast enough to eclipse film pay soon. Notice that phrase, eclipse film pay. Even the people tracking his acting income are now saying the business side is about to outpace it. That's the entire story of this video in one sentence. The part everyone already knew about. The movie paychecks was never actually the majority of what he's worth. It was just the most visible part. And there's a reason it was the most visible part. Movie salaries get reported by trade outlets the day a deal closes. Equity in a private tequila company doesn't get reported anywhere until someone sells it, and Johnson has made clear he's not selling. So the number everyone quotes, the $800 million, is essentially the visible tip of an iceberg, built mostly out of things nobody prices in real time. Private equity stakes, stock grants, trademark rights, and profit shares that only show up on paper when a journalist goes digging through an SEC filing. Which brings up the last piece of this puzzle, the part that's easiest to actually see. Because unlike stock or private equity, it's made of brick, land, and square footage. Real estate doesn't hide, and Johnson's property portfolio tells its own version of this same story. A man who keeps buying, building, and holding far beyond what a single net worth number ever captures. Let's finish where you can actually see the money. Because Johnson's real estate is the one part of this story you don't need an SEC filing to verify. You can look at the listings yourself. Start in Florida, back before most of his tequila or production deals existed. In 2012, he purchased a $3.4 million mansion in the gated community of Southwest Ranches near Miami, a property that spanned 13,153 square feet with 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and a 14-seat home theater. He didn't keep it. He sold it a year later for $3 million after putting real money into upgrades. Then came Georgia. In 2019, he bought a sprawling equestrian estate in the Atlanta suburbs. Johnson paid over $9 million for the property, and the equestrian estate sits in Powder Springs. The place wasn't a small country house. It's a French provincial-style mega mansion over 14,000 square feet with a 12-stall horse barn, a riding arena with a viewing deck, 2 apartments, a farmhouse dating back to 1867, and a historic log cabin. He listed it a couple of years later for less than he paid at $7.5 million, which on paper looks like a loss. But for a man whose net worth is compounding through equity elsewhere, a real estate flip like that barely registers as a rounding error. Then Beverly Hills. In 2021, Johnson bought into one of the most exclusive stretches of Los Angeles real estate that exists. In April 2021, Dwayne Johnson made headlines when he purchased a 17,630 square foot mansion in Beverly Hills for an eye-popping $27.8 million, previously owned by actor Paul Reiser, a Mediterranean-style estate combining old-world charm and modern luxury. The place has 7 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, a tennis court, an indoor swimming pool, and a state-of-the-art gym. That gym isn't incidental. Johnson has referred to his personal training space as his sanctuary, the place where the discipline behind everything else in his career actually gets built. And the portfolio doesn't stop at US borders. During production on one of his Fast Furious spin-offs, while filming Hobbs and Shaw, he purchased a London home spanning over 3 acres, featuring an indoor pool, a billiards room, 9 bedrooms and 10 bathrooms, a pink-themed theater room, a gym, a tennis court, an outdoor pool, 3 garages, and a horse ranch. Combine that with earlier properties, and he owns or has owned properties in Georgia, Florida, California, Virginia, and London. Add all of that up, and the property alone represents tens of millions of dollars parked in physical assets, separate from any stock, any brand equity, any production company valuation. It's the most conservative slice of his fortune, and it's still enough to make most people's entire net worth look small by comparison. So where does that leave the actual number? Every tracker, every headline, every net worth article settles on roughly $800 million. And that figure isn't fabricated, it's just incomplete by design. It's the number you get when you count movie paychecks, count some real estate, and then guess conservatively at everything else. Because private companies don't publish their books. It doesn't fully weight a tequila stake that could be worth over $1 billion on its own. It doesn't fully weight a production studio that's helped generate $4.6 billion in ticket sales. It doesn't fully account for stock grants tied to one of the largest sports and entertainment mergers in recent history, or an energy drink pulling in $100 million a year, or a football league bought for $15 million now sitting inside a business. Some reports value in the billions. None of these pieces individually break the number. But stacked together, tequila equity, TKO stock, WWE royalties, $7 studio value, Zoa's revenue, Project Rock's endorsement structure, the UFL stake, the WNBA and Birmingham City minority positions, and a real estate portfolio spanning 3 states and a country. You're not looking at $800 million anymore. You're looking at a portfolio built the way very few entertainers ever manage. Not around one payday, but around ownership, stacked on ownership, stacked on more ownership, compounding quietly while the public number stays frozen in place. That's the story behind the headline. Not a bigger paycheck, a bigger stack. One most people never think to add up. Sources: celebrity net worth, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, fortune, Terramana Tequila Eyes, global expansion with massed Jägermeister deal. Market realist, most of Dwayne Johnson's net worth comes from Terramana Tequila sales. Arth Nova, Terramana Tequila, how The Rock built a $3.5 billion spirits empire. The things Dwayne Johnson earns a fortune from his Terramana Tequila brand. Fandom Wire, Dwayne Johnson's stake in Terramana Tequila. Fox Business, Terramana Tequila record-setting sales. Celebrity net worth, The Rock will probably become a billionaire. Big Shot Bay, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock net worth 2026. Otaku Cart, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, net worth 2026 breakdown. XFL, Dwayne Johnson, owner. Wikipedia, Danny Garcia, Bored Panda, how Dwayne Johnson's net worth hit $800 million. Hustle Fund, The Rock Investments. Fandom Wire, 4 successful companies Dwayne Johnson owns. Bustle, Dwayne Johnson's net worth made him Forbes' highest paid actor. Yahoo Finance, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's net worth. Adweek, Danny Garcia is redefining the sports and entertainment world. IMDb, Dwayne Johnson earned over $80 million from WWE. Home and texture, where does The Rock live? Fox Business, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Georgia estate. Luxury homestead, The Rock's house. Girth Hacks, Dwayne